everybody, I'm Rhinocio, and today we're drawing more Lord of the Rings. I'm so sorry, this is the thing I'm into right now. I've been trying to come up with other videos, but instead, I'm here, you're here, I'm sorry. Let's just... For real though, this is less fan art and more kind of character design because I'm drawing two characters that exist only as really footnotes in anything. B and I have been writing a lot of fic, and so we've been developing characters that don't get any screen time, and thus I'm trying to draw Narvi and Keller Brimbour, who were the two people that built the speak friend and enter doors in the movies. Narvi's wiki page is basically just they were a dwarf and existed, whereas Keller Brimbour is a little bit more noticeable of a character. He's the grandson of Fëanor, the guy who made the Cymrals, and Keller Brimbour himself made the elven, well, he made all of the rings besides the one ring, so I guess he's kind of an important person. You sure wouldn't know it from the text or the fandom though. There is not a lot to do with this guy, except for fairly recently there was like a video game that he was in. It was very edgelord, and thus I'm doing the exact opposite. I picture Keller Brimbour as being this sort of big, derpy, puppy-like guy. He's very friendly, very outgoing. I decided that of their two, he was the more sort of adventurous one, the more extroverted. Whereas Narvi, contrary to a lot of fanon that I've seen, I picture as being quite a quiet, reserved person. So I thought it'd be fun to draw a scene where one's towing the other one around and it looks like complete chaos. As you can probably tell from my extremely messy layers of sketch, I had no idea what I was doing, and it's probably not clear to anyone else what was going on here, at least until I started laying down the second layer and then the line art. And oh my gosh, I have the worst time with open mouths. This is clearly something I've got to work on in the future, so I'm forcing myself to do it, even though it sucks and I hate it. Also, y'all may have noticed, but I don't normally do line art, so this was kind of a learning curve. I did finally find a setting with the pen that I actually enjoyed, so I was like, okay, I don't mind so much this time. Normally I find when I do line art, everything just looks too digital, and not that this one doesn't, but it's got more of that line weight that I like with traditional inking, so progress. Like I mentioned in the redraw that I did of Toph and Aang, I've been working on making my characters look very distinct from each other. And these two are very good practice because one of them is extremely tall and one is extremely small, and one has a rounder face while the other one has like a big defined jaw. Oh, that was the cannon, it scared me. Because elves are always drawn as the picture of grace, I wanted Keller Brimbour to be like really tall and gangly, and I wanted the features of his face to be sharper than people would generally be like, ah yes, my aesthetic. So I've given him a very long face and sort of very high cheekbones and a very pronounced nose with a high bridge. I've been thinking of them as Scandinavian features, but I don't know how accurate that is. Meanwhile, and I think it's because the movies gave Gimli a Scottish accent for some reason, I've seen many of them drawn as white characters with thick curly hair. I thought it might be fun to do something different and something very juxtaposed to what Keller Brimbour looks like. So even though my skill at drawing Asian characters could use some serious work, my aim is to have Narvi look kind of Mongolian, so like more of a round or heart-shaped face with high cheekbones and then a less pronounced brow bone. So Celebrimbour's name translated means silver fist because I don't know why, language. And while pretty much the rest of his family tree is listed as having either dark or auburn hair, I thought it'd be really fun to play up on that silver thing and give him really silvery hair. This is kind of tricky because so many of the elves in the thing are drawn as blondes, and I didn't really want to go with that, but I also thought it'd be really fun to play up the silver, so here we are. Unfortunately, he doesn't look a lot different from a lot of the Legolases that people draw, but he does look different than his own family line, and he looks different than most of the depictions I've seen of him. Narvi's hair also gave me trouble because I've yet to figure out how you're supposed to color black hair when you have black liner. I don't know how to make it distinct, and they had such a pretty braid. I wanted to make it clear. Anyway, so I started with this sort of reddish brown color, but it was too brown, so then I kind of tilted into the blue purpley spectrum. I love hue and saturation shift. This was a drawing where I was trying a whole bunch of new, well not new, but different things than I normally do. We're doing some serious line art, and we're doing some cell shading. I think that's what you call this, where you're just putting in blocks of shading as opposed to like the soft around the edges thing. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I have issues with not knowing how far to blend shading. So I figured that not blending anything at all would be a good other side of the spectrum to try to see where in the middle I want to land. And honestly, I kind of dig it. It's a little more cartoony looking, especially in this context. But I also have sort of a cartoony style, so, you know, it works. I did add a little bit of airbrush blushing around the face and the hands and stuff, though, because I just love how it looks. It's so cute. You may have noticed that in a couple places the background turns purple. That's because it's easier on my eyes. When coloring something really light, like Celebrimbour's hair, you want something contrastive in the background so you can see where you've gone outside the lines. So even though his hair gave me more trouble and I had to go back and erase more things later, that's what that's for. It also reduces eye strain if you're staring at a computer for really long periods of time, but when you choose your colors, turn it off for a hot second, because otherwise you're going to be contrasting the colors of what you're choosing against the background, and sometimes it gives you weird hues. Why do brains be like that? I realized when I got to the end of this that a lot of my color palette was coming off as like greenish yellowy, and that wasn't really what I was feeling, so I put an overlay layer that was in a pinky red. And then initially I didn't want to do a background because you know what, I hate backgrounds, so we just played with colors for a while. Messing with the hue in these videos always looks like a rave party. I decided after a while that this background nonsense was just not doing it for me, so I took a deep breath and I was like, I'm gonna actually draw a background, sort of. If I was smart, I probably would have like drawn out a background and then inked it or sketched it or something, but no, I just slapped color on. I'm like, I've seen people digitally paint, I can do this. I can't, but I mean, it work. I think it's passable.
Besides, I always cover stuff in so many filters that you can't really tell what it is anyway.
Although I did have some trouble with the luminosity. I wasn't sure what kind of tone of light I wanted. I didn't want it to come through like too saturated.
Ugh, these are the woes. This is why I spend 10 minutes playing with sliders.
I'm pretty sure this is the only drawing I've fully rendered in like years. Not my dig, dudes. But I hope you liked it, and if you did, please let me know in whatever way works best for you. And if you want to hang out in the future and see more of this kind of stuff, then hit the subscribe button, and I will see you at a later date. Okay, bye!